Should you take the FE exam after gaining some real engineering experience, or should you take it while still in college? While every student is different, this is a very important decision. And in this week's Pass the FE exam video, I'll be talking with Justin Edenbaum, a licensed professional engineer, to get his opinion on how to decide exactly when to take the FE exam. Justin's been practicing successfully as an engineer for a while now, so he can really look back and provide that experienced perspective. Now, before I bring on Justin, let me remind you that the FE exam, or Fundamentals of Engineering, is the first step to getting your professional engineering license. And through the videos on this channel, including this one, you will learn not only how to properly prepare for the exam, but how to ensure you pass the FE exam. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel here, as my weekly videos will help you pass the FE exam. And if you leave questions in the comments below, I will answer them on future videos. Justin, welcome to Pass the FE exam. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Yeah, no problem. I'm like I said before, I'm very honored to speak with you, Anthony. I've been watching and reading your stuff for years now.
So Justin, can you kind of briefly introduce yourself to our viewers and let them know what type of engineering discipline you're in? Kind of, what do you do today?
Okay, so as of today, my name is Justin Edenbaum, and 4 years ago, I started my own engineering company titled Never Gray. And I'm a mechanical engineer licensed in both New York, Nevada, and the province of Ontario in Canada. My firm specializes in tunnel ventilation and underground fire life safety.
Wow. And so in terms of your journey to the PE license, you were licensed in the US and then eventually, moved to Canada, and you had to go through that process as well.
Yeah, and it's actually part of the reason I was able to get my job in Canada when I interviewed for it. It was one of the key components that led to my transfer within the company to take a position that required 20 years of experience, and I only had 9. But the professional engineering and other skills are what they said is, you know what, this is the right guy for the job.
That's awesome. So the big question that I really want to ask you today is, based on your experience, should one take the FE exam after gaining some experience after college, or while they're still kind of in college, going through the process, getting near graduation?
So I have seen this process from university to immediately after university to a 60-year-old taking the exam. And the answer to that is take it your senior year or immediately after your senior year of university. That's the short answer. In my university, Binghamton University, when I went there 20 years ago in 2000, they actually paid, or they coordinated to have a van drive people to take the FE exam. And they still, to this day, I was talking to my friend Jason, who teaches there, they still to this day encourage students to take it and actually have study classes to do it while you're in school.
That's interesting. So why do you think it's so much easier to take it at that point?
So you asked the question, should you take it after you have experience under your belt? When you start getting experience under your belt, that's another way of saying is specialization. And as you start doing that, you might go down the road. Let's say I'm a mechanical engineer. I might start looking really finely at sizing HVAC systems for a room or tunnel ventilation fans for a tunnel. I'm going to forget a little bit about my differential calculus. I might forget a little about my chemistry. I might forget a little bit about my trigonometry. All these things, as time goes on, you forget them. And you can relearn it if you don't take the exam right after school. But if the closer you are to either still being in school or just finishing school, the easier it will be to prepare yourself because you just did it and it's more in your brain and you actually used it. A couple of years of experience, that experience starts to actually push out some of the basics that you're not using anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And, we know the FE exam, of course, has a lot of topics. And that's why, the further removed you are, as you mentioned, can be difficult because you may specialize. But in addition to the benefit of having everything fresh in your mind, what might be some of the other benefits of taking it, while you're still on campus, while you're going through college?
The network. You're going to have, if you could get you, yourself, or your friends, or even a classmate, or even if you talk to your professor to say, let's organize weekly sessions where we can do this together, it always helps. when you're in a non-competitive environment and you're all just trying to pass the same exam. And so when I actually studied, I didn't do it right after university, but I had another friend of mine, Mark Gilby. And Mark Gilby and I, whenever we had a problem, we would actually get together and work on it. And so just like it's probably in university, working together, not only do you get better at the subjects you know, but you have someone to help you with the subjects you don't know.
Yeah, I really like that answer, because I think a lot of times when people hear that they need to take the FE in college, it's because primarily of the fact that everything is kind of fresh in your mind. You're taking all these different subjects, but really that component of having people around you is really an underrated accountability factor, because like anything in life, we need accountability built into what we're doing. And if you have people around you that are studying for the FE, they're all going to get in the van or on the bus together and go. You can work together, you can hold each other accountable. And that's a big factor that you're not going to have once you get out of school. So that is something to really kind of be focused around. Now, the other thing that I want to ask you here, Justin, is
actually, I want to add one other thing to this, is if you don't do it while you're in your senior year. Now, I chose not to do it during my senior year. I'll say there were many other things going on. But if you and your friends commit to say, listen, let's graduate, let's get our degrees, but I'll tell you what, let's all plan to take it that October together. Then you got your group that you've established in university, and with all the networking and online tools we have available now, you could each keep each other accountable. So if you don't take it your senior year, I'm going to bounce back what you just told me is keep that network, make a commitment to each other that we're going to take it this year and we'll work on it together. So I think that like it is an important piece of it. It will help you with that accountability. So sorry for interrupting.
no, that's perfect, because that was kind of what I was going to ask you next was, let's say I'm a college student and I'm overwhelmed. I've got exams going on. Maybe I'm a little short on money to sign up for the exam or sign up for a review course or whatever I need to do. So I need a few more months. It sounds like, your advice there is fine, take 6 more months, but keep in touch with everyone around you. Maybe have a group of people that you go through that with. Because, sometimes I feel like we tell students take the FE, but we also sometimes forget that they have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. And I could remember my senior year. It's part of the reason I feel so bad for people going through COVID right now. Senior year had a lot of going on. So I feel bad for them. But the point is take it that October, November, December. I know people who took it in October and passed, and their level of preparation was much less than mine. And I did it just 2 years after graduating. So I didn't take it and follow my own advice, but I paid for it because I had to sit there and study. And I was kind of alone. I didn't have the network. And it took more time for me to prepare for it than it did the people who did it that October. And the passing rate is probably higher as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. And it's to your point, it's like every month or couple of months that you're removed from school, the amount of study that's required for this exam probably, exponentially grows. And that's just a huge reason to take it earlier on. All right. So Justin, the last question that I want to ask you here is, we may have some viewers here that are still up in the air about going after their PE license at all. A lot of times when you're coming out of school, you don't know what discipline you're going to be in. You might think like, well, what if my discipline doesn't really require it? What would you tell them based on your career as to whether or not they should focus on this license?
Take it. Take the FE now, and then all the options are available for you later. And I'll give you let's say you start in a profession that doesn't need a PE, like computer science and sometimes programming doesn't, but if you eventually want to become an engineer, your career and the growth of it may be stunted because you don't have a PE. And then so 5 years after graduating, you might work for an employer and you're like, oh, I got to get the PE. And now you're going to have to take the FE cold, and you don't have that university. And you don't have that university experience. So I'll quickly end to exemplify how important it is. At the company I worked for at the time, Parsons Brinckerhoff in New York, my mentor told me about an individual who wanted to move up in the company and had certain responsibilities. And he was 60 years old, well established in the business, but he never got his PE, or he might have been a foreigner. But regardless, he had to take the FE in his 60s. And it was very painful for him. So you don't know what your future or your career is going to take you. Keep all your options and opportunities available for you, especially those with minimal investment. And FE is a minimal investment coming out of college, but it's a much bigger investment you're going to have to put into as time goes on.
100%. And that's great. And I think of that answer right there summed up in one word, which is flexibility. you
Yes.
are creating a ton of flexibility for yourself if you have that FE or that engineering training certification. Whereas if you don't get it now, you don't know where you're going. And you know what? It's unfortunate because it's not always the student's fault, but sometimes they hear things from people like, oh, you're going into construction, you don't need your license. And what happens is a civil engineering major, for example, goes into construction. The economy, there's a depression, the construction industry slows down for a couple of months or a year. They get laid off. They go to work for a design firm, and then they realize, man, if I would have had my FE, I could have got my license and I really could have moved up in this design firm. So
Even if you love construction, let's say you love construction and you're the construction site and you're actually on site, but now a design firm looks at you and says, wow, you're the type of guy who knows this and you got your design smarts. I want you to come work for me and lead my company. Did you take your FE? Do you have your PE? No? Well, you have to, otherwise we can't even consider you at our firm. So exactly, it's flexibility, and there is a pedigree or prestige that comes with having the FE, saying, oh, I did take that. Oh, you're serious about your studies. You're serious about engineering. It's more than just there's a pedigree that comes with it as well, I believe.
Justin, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to come on Pass the FE exam. This is advice that I certainly wish I had in college, and I hope that through this video we can make sure that many engineering students and professionals get this advice. So thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Anthony. You're welcome.
I hope you found my conversation with Justin helpful. In some of our upcoming videos, we will break down some of the FE exam problems and also dive more into the makeup of the different topics on the exam. Pass the FE exam will publish videos weekly, so please be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll get expert tips and tricks every single week to ensure that you pass the FE exam. And these are tips that you can't get anywhere else. And believe me, you won't want to miss a single video. And please, I encourage you to ask questions in the comments and I will read and respond to them in future videos. Maybe there's a specific topic you'd like me to cover, or a question that you need answered. Pass the FE exam will have you covered. See you next week on Pass the FE exam.